Hi, I'm Yolanda and this is Speak On. Hit up Instagram and women are showing their hairy pits, their stretchies, their rolls, their saggy parts, their six packs, their cellulite, their butts, their muscles, soft bits, round bits and more. Why? Because it's reality and it's all beautiful. We can see that the body positivity movement, driven by social media, is having a great impact. Not just in raising women's confidence to love and accept the skin that they're in, but also changing unrealistic and manufactured beauty ideals, which you kind of see, which we used to see a lot in like the 90s and in magazines and on adverts, etc. As a result, now we can see that magazines, fashion labels, adverts are really showcasing a variety of bodies. Obviously, there's still some way to go, but it's nice to see the change. But there are still a few areas of life where body positivity has a really, really long way to go. And one of those is dating. Dating is weird as fuck, but it can be even more of a minefield depending on race, weight, disability, a number of other issues. So I invited my friend to join me today as it's something we talk about a lot. Pamela Drameh. She has been with us before. She's pretty cool. And, you know, here she is again. I brought her back. She's my friend. I allowed her on again, despite just how she is. Hi, Pam.
Wow, what a glowing introduction. I don't know if I can top that.
I'm sorry, you're great, really, I promise. Okay, right, yeah. So dating. We do talk about this a lot because we date on and off.
We do. Obviously, if my mother ever listens to this, I only date Christian boys. Men.
Yeah.
And no kissing until there's a ring on my finger, obviously, Mom.
Absolutely. Abstinence all the way, man. So tell me, dating, what's it like for you?
So I'm a size like 22, 24. So a bigger girl. And it's interesting because you meet a really, really lovely intersection of racists and sizists, which is just a delight.
Oh God, yeah.
I mean, not all the time, to be fair. Most of the time it's fine and it's exactly the same issues that everyone else is finding. Like, you want someone that's on your same wavelength, education length, if that's not really a term, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And someone that you vibe with. So in most of the time it's pretty normal, and then you get some random weird message from Charlie.
Fucking
who's like,
Charlie.
Oh
God.
I just want you to sit on my face. And you're like, okay. Which doesn't feel weird, but then they keep going and you're like, okay, now you've made it. Okay. No. Or I want to try something new.
Stop making it weird.
I want to try something new. I've never had a brown girl before. Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh, God.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. But we talk a lot about just, the minefields of dating while black.
Yeah.
And then you throw in, I think definitely being plus size, the pool is smaller because I'm very honest, like I have full body length photos because I don't want anyone to waste my time. So I'm not going down this road of like, oh, you're bigger than you look. Nah, you can see it. So you clicked, either you didn't look at the photos or you clicked.
Yeah.
Knowing that. So I have to say that I don't run into too much, but your field of men is smaller.
Yeah.
Because like we know that the more sort of societally acceptable you look, the easier things are for you in life. It's not necessarily fair, but we know that that's true.
Yeah. And what kind of, like, obviously you don't have to go into it massively because I'm sure there's just, I don't know, I know there's so much crazy shit that people say when you're dating and stuff they send you. And it's wild that they say it because it's like, do you think that after this I'm going to meet up with you, kiss you, or let your penis anywhere near me? This is wild. Like, has this ever worked? Has it ever worked a day in your life? But like, what kind of crazy shit do people say to you?
It's been, because as I've gotten older, I've gotten better at weeding it out. So it has been a really long time since I've had anything. And also, I've just been really lucky in that, like, I'm quite no bullshit. So it's always been in the first couple of messages, and then I don't waste time telling you what you've done wrong. I'm just like, you're a dick, and block.
Yeah.
And report.
Block and report, you know.
Why not? The report button's there for a reason.
What's anyone said that made you think, okay, I have to report them?
Oh no, I will report for any little infraction, so don't worry about
Jesus
it.
Christ.
I've never had. I have to say that I've never had anything I've never been like so. I've never been insulted.
Yeah.
So that's a relief, I guess. I know so many people have had different experiences.
Yeah.
But there's a lot there's definitely fetishization. There's a lot of fetishizing parts of my body, like bums and boobs and things like that, which it's just, I mean, you've not even said hello.
Which dating apps, how do you date? Do you use dating apps? Well, I suppose actually, obviously, discount in this year because obviously we couldn't go out and about. How do you date? Speed dating, dating apps, getting out and about in bars, what?
Mainly dating apps and out and about. I work in film, so it's quite social. So you have a lot of film festivals and stuff. So luckily, get to meet lots of people, but mainly dating apps because it's the 21st century, and that's what we do now. Yeah, exactly. I definitely. Some are better than others, obviously. I definitely prefer the ones where women speak first because then, the ones where men speak first, they just shouldn't be allowed to speak first. Like, I'm going to be bold. And go
really?
Out
and why do you think this, Pam? Why do you think they shouldn't be allowed to speak first?
Because how can the first thing you say to someone be, "Hi, I've never tried a brown girl before. I like to try new things," as if.
But then when you start speaking,
a chocolate bar.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
And we're not talking about like, oh, I've never had Thai food before.
Yeah.
Let's try that restaurant. It will be exciting. Cool. We're talking about a human being.
Yeah. They're more like, I've never been near a brown vagine. Let me get in there. Any brown vagine would do. Not mine. There's nothing about me specifically that you're attracted to. Yeah. It's just that brownness, and you want to stick it in. Yeah, but then does this? Even if you start talking first, though, do you get this as a response, like where people say that?
No, less so. Definitely less so.
Okay.
And again, I think, like I said, like I have been. Like, I've heard some horrific stories, and I think I'm quite a cautious human being as well because of all of these things. I think, so I'm not going to click on the profile of someone who if you don't have any words written down, I'm probably not going to click it. Yeah. Like, if you just have the country that you're from written down, that is not a personality, so I'm not gonna... But I definitely think, my criteria for why I'm going to swipe yes is probably stricter than a lot of people's because I'm protecting myself from that sort of feedback.
Yeah. I say, do you ever get as well guys that because obviously we talked about you've mentioned this is what guys will say because they want to put it in a brown vagine. Do you get guys that specifically mention your size or guys that specifically mention things like racism or really, I don't know, do you get guys that pick a subject and then they're like, this is my opening line, this is where I'm going in, or you're having a perfectly nice conversation, then they just take that left turn?
Sometimes when you're having a perfectly nice conversation, there's a left turn into, I bet you're really good at cuddles, I just want to, there's a whole sort of like mammy-esque tone which sometimes can be taken, which depending on where it's turned in the conversation would depend on where I shut it down. But I am still single, so let's just go to say that it's all been shut down. It has not.
That's so I mean, obviously it's such a minefield anyway, and it's such. I mean, this year's weird. And so
this year
God
is
knows
weird.
what the fuck happens next. But yeah, so this combo of being, I suppose, fetishized and all these other things. What does it just make you think about dating? Do you just think, oh, this is just so laborious, I can't be bothered, or are you still enthusiastically taking part?
Oh, I'm completely not enthusiastically taking part. I sort of begrudgingly take part because human beings are not supposed to be alone.
Yeah.
And so, sort of societal pressure, and also, I don't know. That's a good question. It varies. Sometimes I'm enthusiastic. Sometimes I'm completely checked out. It depends on. Yeah, it swings and roundabouts. Definitely, though, you and I have had chats where, I think in how I feel about myself, I'm pretty solid and confident, and I think I am awesome. However, we've had like, it's shit that, you know, like, I think about working out and losing weight just like purely from the benefits that you get from society.
Yeah.
Which is and like, I think it's quite, I guess the good thing is that I know that society is fucked in the viewpoint that we have and the emphasis that we put on women's bodies, but it is still kind of shit that like, I'm someone who's like happy in herself, like I work out, like I feel relatively healthy, I've never been ill with anything, you know, beyond a cold and things like that. That the norm. I've never had any ill, you know, I was going to say I can run, but that's actually a lie.
I can't run. I hate running. Shit.
I hate running.
Yeah.
But you know, you and I work out together.
Yeah.
Like, I can work out, you know, and stuff. So it's kind of shit that like, actually you need to think about I need to think about losing weight purely because it might help me find a partner. Like, that's literally the only reason.
Yeah, and it's and you know, it's yeah, I don't know.
It's an aesthetic reason, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's an aesthetic reason, but it would make it will. You know, I think it would be naive for me to pretend that if I was smaller, it might be easier to find a partner. I don't think it's. What am I trying to say? Like, yeah, I think that's that's just a fact of the world that we live in right now. I'd like to think that going forward, like, that isn't the same, and we do see that. Yeah. And I don't know if that's a specific UK problem or what, but yeah, I think it's shit that like but we see this in the world, like people getting plastic surgery to conform so that their face fits in a certain, like it's on all, we do this as a society where like this is the societal standard, and if you don't meet it, then you're going to struggle in whatever that is.
Yeah. So I suppose there's like still a way for, I suppose, body positivity, face positivity as well needs to really be covered. There's still a way for it to go, because there's so much like deprogramming that needs to be done. And like, what do you 100%. Think about like the body positive movement? And you know, the other day we talked a little bit about body neutrality, etc. What do you feel about that? Do you think it's done well, and where do you think we have to go with it, and what's next?
Yeah, I think I find this conversation around body neutrality quite interesting, because body positivity has sort of moved from being this like, I think maybe it's also what sort of body positivity was trying to, it's kind of what it was saying it was in the first place. Then it kind of got hijacked into like, when I sit down, I have 3 roles and you should love that. And people are like, I have 3 roles when I stand up. What are you talking about? Yeah. And body neutrality of that, like, nobody's value should be attached to their body. Yeah. Like, and everybody's body is their own, and it's their own business, and it's nobody else's business. Yeah. And you should not love your body, but like the idea that your body has a function, and if it's doing its function as well as it can, then that's what we should be aiming for. Like, you know, like, and I think
respecting and accepting our body. It's not necessarily about you must love the skin you're in. Like, respect it, accept it, and also respect
and don't attach value to it. Yeah, and don't attach value to it, because that's what, and this is, you know, and we're speaking as like able-bodied cis het women. Like, I'm very aware of that. Like, we don't have any, we're coming for this from quite an abled standpoint. Yeah. Don't attach value to your body, because that's not a measure of anything. Like, there's nothing we can do about our bodies. You know, there's things that we inherit genetically, environmentally, and things like that. So to attach value to something that trying to change can actually harm you is kind of insane.
It is a bit mental, isn't it?
It is a little bit mental, isn't it? Like, you can't really do anything about the body that you're born with. Like, I don't know, like, if you're born really, like, all the women in your family are really hippie, and you're really hippie, there's not a lot you can really do about that. Yeah. Like, there's nothing you could have done to prevent it. There's nothing wrong with it. Yeah. And, like, just live life.
Yeah. And I think I kind of, with the body positivity versus body neutrality, I really like the way you explained it there, because I think a lot of people don't really know what body neutrality is. And I think it's a good point you've made about the fact that body neutrality is kind of what body positivity was kind of going for. And obviously there's nothing wrong with loving and accepting the skin that you're in, etc. The messages are still really on point, but I also love the fact that it's like, yeah, let's respect it, like, try to take care of it so it continues to function in a way that keeps us, I suppose, healthy, in air quotes, and alive, etc. Yeah. And to kind of celebrate that. Yeah, and also I suppose a lot of body neutrality is also just mind your business about other people's bodies.
Just mind your business. And it's so interesting that people feel that they have, and again, like, this is what like fat phobia is, like, you know, that's like from both sides. It's sort of like, so many people are like, oh God, like their biggest fear is being fat. Why is your biggest fear being fat?
Yeah,
because society demonizes it. You know this, so why? Like, it's sort of, I was going to say it's sort of like the racism talk, but it's not at all. But it just, there's a parallel there in terms of like, so you know why you don't want to do that. In the same way that when people ask people, would you be black? They're like, hell no. You know, so you know, because you know that people treat those people differently.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yet you can be like, and then you look at the way like society looks at people. You remember like heroin chic? I mean, I say remember, we're very young, so obviously we don't remember.
Yeah, that was like in the 90s, just for anyone that listening under a certain age that doesn't know.
Yeah, and there was, and it was, despite knowing that it was called heroin chic, so despite knowing that people were taking this drug that can kill you, it was still a beauty standard to aspire towards. Yeah. Which is so fucked in itself as well. Like, just leave people's bodies alone.
Yeah, basically. And where else, because obviously you were saying there's like fat phobia, and it's so true. I know so many people who are so frightened, so frightened of being fat. And then obviously, as you know, and they'll do wild things because of it. And not just because obviously there are some things that are to do with like obviously mental health issues, etc. But absolutely. I know people that are, and then also they really project that out by being absolute fucking bellends as well. Where else, like what other areas of your life, like does like kind of fat phobia present itself? Where else, sorry, in your life does it present itself? And like what other parts of your life does it cause an issue in? But I mean, not for yourself, but from other people.
So that's a really interesting question. And some of it I'm actually just not aware because maybe like I wouldn't know. Yeah. I do work in media, so it's relatively sort of, it's not an industry that really I was going to say it's an industry that doesn't care what people look like. It definitely does, but not when you're behind the camera.
Yeah, it's very much you can be behind the scenes. People only really care about who's in the magazine or on the film or on the TV.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's why, like, when you look at the irony of looking at who runs all of these papers and stuff, and they are people who are not practicing what they preach. Mm-hmm. Let's just say the hypocrisy can be real. So I don't know but also on a professional level, like, I wouldn't necessarily know because people don't say it to your face if you're, I come across confident, educated, so it's hard to know, if that makes sense.
Yeah. People aren't doing things that are kind of overt to you or anything.
Yeah, but, you know, I would never know if it's held me back at work because no one has gone, we're not going to give you that job, Pam, because you're too fat for it. Yeah. No one's ever going to say that. But, like, it's an interesting one. Definitely family, because, you know, an African West Indian family love
commenting on your size.
Oh, hey, how you get fatter? Oh, you got fatter? Oh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then,
literally.
It's insane. And then you go, oh, you know what? Actually, I don't want to eat. And they're like, so you came all the way here and you didn't eat? You can't win. You can't win. Yeah. You're like, you just called me fat. And now you're telling me off for not eating. Like, do you not see what this...
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Things, people, they constantly comment on your size. And it's wild because I get that, and I've had that throughout my life, because it's like, if I've put on weight, which isn't even like put on, like, I remember actually there's a woman that was, she's passed away now. She was a terrible human being, by the way. Terrible. Anyway, I saw her on the street. She used to know my nan. She was always a dick to her. And she actually said, oh, hi, you're right. And I was always really respectful because, you know, you're not going to be rude to anyone, an elder. And she was like, oh, you're putting on weight. You're going to be fat like your nan. And I was like, I'd rather be fat like my nan than hideous like you. I was like, that's it. Politeness had to go out the window then, because that woman had no soul, and I don't understand I don't think she had a reflection. But that she honestly thought that was completely okay to say to me. And I was just like, shut up. But then again, it's that thing where there aren't any boundaries. And I've had that literally like, oh, you put on weight. Oh, you're too skinny. Or you're just the right size. And I'm like, none of this is your business. But also, why the fuck are you saying it? And saying it in front of other people, and to even make them feel, the fact that these people feel so emboldened to say these things out loud. And I've had people comment on, oh, like, oh, you put on weight, or oh, you've lost too much weight, oh, you're just the right size, oh, so you don't want to eat, oh, so you do want to eat, don't eat any more than that or you'll put on weight. And it's this thing where they don't really have any boundaries, and they're doing it in front of other people as well. And I'm like, no, I'm not bothered about it, but what about other people around me who don't fit into whatever these made up standards are? So there's very much a family kind of cultural issue with that, but at the same time, it's delivered by people who truly have all the diabetes.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And it's and like when you look in like our communities like that though, like it's interesting. Like I'd love to know, like this comment, like do they genuinely not see any harm in what they're saying, and they think that it's fair game, or do they think it's been helpful? Like, you know, we're not talking about necessarily the most emotionally available generation that love to say this shit.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good point. I don't know, because I really luckily my grandma and my nan were not like this at all, nor my granddad's. It was more other people in our family that around them who were like that, whereas mine were always really like just really positive. They were just like, we're just really glad you're doing well, get on with your life, innit?
On my mum's side of the fact, like who I'm closest to, all of the women that I grew up with were all like bigger, and then lost, like they were all gorgeous, skinny when they were, oh, you see, even notice what I just said there, they were all gorgeous and skinny.
You did.
It's like indoctrinated in us. And then they all had children, and we all of us wrecked their bodies, as they like to tell us. So it was sort of a weird one where like I grew up with women who were bigger, so I didn't feel any sort of way, because I was like, well, I'm just going to grow up and look like mum and auntie. And then as I got bigger, as I was getting older, or like as I got older, like I wouldn't say they weren't mean or anything, but I guess they didn't know themselves like about proper dieting and things, and so we've all learned as we've gotten older, like how to you know, what we should be eating, what we shouldn't be eating, and all of that sort of stuff. But yeah, I've not really, until we had this conversation, I hadn't really thought about the fact that growing up, I felt different to my friends, but I was black, so I was already different to my friends.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, you've already got enough stuff going on with racism, man. It's already enough going on with being black.
I would say, going back to work, like we have some very interesting conversations where a lot of people are like, oh, I'm really fat, I ate this and da-da-da. And because I give no shits, I'm like, do you want to think about the language that you're using there, guys? Like, if you're considered fat, then what am I? And you can see the sort of fluster comes on. But also, I think it's you. Like, I like people I work with, so I'm like, no, like you need to rethink what you're saying as well, because you know you guys are going to go on to have kids, and like, to be fair, I work in an office where it's pretty much like people are pretty on the right side of it. And definitely looking at the younger ones in the office, like I love how little they care. Not little they care, but they just seem to be so. They don't talk about dieting or like, and and they're all gorgeous, like lovely young women, and it's just quite refreshing to see them not be trapped into this cycle of like, what am I eating and what am I not, compared to like those of us in the office that are a little bit older, that were brought up in those like sort of like Britpop, like
things were just wild,
kind of ladette, but also like diet. It was wild. It's wild. Like when you're speaking to people like more our age, like 35 to 45 ish, like just the issues that come in with the messages that we got around food and stuff like that is insane.
Absolutely, because it wasn't even about, whereas now it's about health and fitness and being ethical. Honestly, I mean, as I'm obsessed with Gen Z anyway, obsessed with the fact that I think they're so elite. Gen Z are an elite generation. End of story. They're an elite generation. But yeah, they are so, on one hand they're like super lucky that they're not bombarded with those messages, but also because they just don't perpetuate it, they just get on with their lives. They're so bloody lucky. But I think that's a really good point to make about the language that people use, because I truly remember an incident, this is years ago, when I worked somewhere, and I've never, again, as we were saying, both of us need to recognise we're able-bodied, cis, hetero women. We don't have the same issues or any like all kind of problems or like as anything else, as anybody else, sorry, or other people I should say. But I remember being in a changing room once with someone I used to work with, and we were just trying on clothes at lunchtime, and she wouldn't come out. And I was like, why wouldn't you come out? And then I kind of peeked in, and she was there crying. This woman was a size 12, and she was crying because she thought she looked fat and didn't like the way she looked. And I've never seen someone really dislike the way they look in that, like with that kind of, like that much. I've never met anyone that disliked themselves as much as her, disliked her body. And I was like, there's nothing wrong with you. You're like, you're gorgeous. And your body is on point. But she thought because she was bigger, because she's short already, she thinks she showed up more because she was shorter. She hated her body and was constantly covering herself up and used to think she was fat, and she tried every single diet. And it was really odd to watch someone do that to themselves. And I wonder now, because I don't see her anymore, I wonder now if any of the body positivity, neutrality, any of that messaging has started to permeate with her and how she feels about herself now. Yeah. It'd be interesting to see. Because, that was really sad. It was really sad to see, and something I'm always been, I suppose, on the side of being more body positive, body neutral. I'm not saying that I've never ever thought, God, I could do with X, Y, and Z, but it's never been so ingrained, internalized, or something that's made me want to change myself massively. Except for when I was younger. Yeah. I have really big boobs, and so when I was younger, having really big boobs at a really young age is horrible because like it's creepy. It's old.
Society sexualizes young girls.
Exactly, yeah, and it also meant
it's nothing you did. Yeah. It's everything.
Everything else around it made it hideous for me. But then also genuinely, I couldn't fit into clothes, and that was always. I had to be really mindful of what I wore. So then that was, I think, the main place for me was like, oh my God, please don't stare at my boobs. Now I'm an adult, it doesn't matter. But being a kid, that was hard. But it was weird to see. Now, I guess, do you see, you have that intersectionality of being plus size, being a black woman, etc. Do you see, are there any negatives or positives that happen as a result of that?
I think like the online community has been really good. Like I think we touched on it earlier that like, because everyone in my family was bigger, and also I think it's different. Like it was sort of like, okay, well, you're a black woman and you're a fat kid, so you gotta get on with life. My mum would never let me, even if I wasn't the type to sort of wallow in self-pity too much anyway. Yeah. But there's no way that my mum would have let that happen anyway. She's like, okay, but you're still going to go to trampolining once a week. Mm-hmm. You're still going to do this. Like, don't let it doesn't stop you doing anything. Yeah. But then with things, with the online community, the way it is, like, definitely there's things about we know representation matters. Mm-hmm. It's everything that everyone's talking about in the media, and it matters. Like seeing women whose bodies looked more like mine, like in lingerie, in underwear, with afros and things like that, was sort of like, oh yeah, shit, yeah. It's just nice when you see someone who looks like you. You know you're not alone. Yeah. So it's not even that it's something like I'm not suddenly going to start wearing lingerie on my Instagram. Because
I mean, if you wanted to,
I'm a good Christian girl.
Oh yeah, I forgot about this. Christianity.
Or we go back to I'm a good Christian girl, Mom. And again, even that, like every time I say stuff like that, I'm like, hear the language, and I'm like, but even that rhetoric around it is ridiculous about what I said. But anyway,
we'll have a whole other show on internalized messages.
Yeah. But yeah, and I travel a lot for work. And so I just was thinking about an incident that happened. And I think that for me, this is a positive thing. Yeah. Where nobody cares as much about you as you care about you. And I don't know where I heard that. But actually, it's sort of relatively freeing. Yeah. Like, because I don't sit around and looking at other people, like... And I think most of us probably don't. There's definitely a few unhappy people that do. Yeah. But most people don't go around worrying about what other people are looking like and doing all the time. Yeah. Right? Because if we did that, like, we wouldn't have time to do anything. If we did that, to do anything. So I remember going to Finland for work once, for the Helsinki Film Festival. And Finland is a culture that has lots of sauna, or sauna as they call it. Yeah. Is the proper way to say it. And so sauna culture is a real thing. And I have a friend who's Finnish, and so she had told me that in Finland... you're naked. Like, there's no swimsuit nonsense. Like, you're naked. So I was like, oh, Lord. Yeah. No, I'm just not going to do any sauna. Yeah. So I went as a guest of this company, and one of the things that they organised for us was to go to this really lovely, like, old historic sauna. And we were going to do proper sauna, jump into the sea. Yeah. and do it all properly. Great, amazing. So the group of people, it just so happened that the bias of the group was more men than women. And it turns out in Finland, like, everyone is naked in the sauna, but men go together and women go together. The only time that you would have mixed saunas would be in a family.
Yeah.
So, you know, mum, dad and kids would all sauna together. But in public, they're all separate. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. And, like, Scandinavia and Finland, we know that they have, like, there's this sort of thing of them being very free when it comes to bodies and things like that, and, like, very healthy living.
Yeah.
And definitely in Finland, it's 100% true. So basically, it was me, 2 Finnish ladies, and this American lady. And they were like, okay, well, so the women will go first because there's fewer of them, so you guys get an hour.
Yeah.
So you go in the sauna and whatever. And I had taken my swimsuit, but everyone else was naked, and I was just, my pride went, I cannot be the prudish English girl that's, like, not going to be naked.
Yeah.
So I got naked, went into the sauna, jumped into the sea. Nobody cared. Nobody, like, I don't remember what any of their bodies looked like.
Yeah.
I don't know if they looked at me in any sort of way. We had a great time, super naked, jumping into the sea. And, yeah. And so I've been to Finland a few times, and it's the place that I've been the most naked in my whole life. And in public, because I sauna all the time there.
Yeah.
And it's delightful. And when you go to the saunas, like, everybody, the different ages, like, young kids, and it's great for kids, like, yeah, why would I, and when you think about it through it logically, who am I trying to impress?
Yeah.
Like, these are women that I don't know, and they're all naked, and we're all going to go sweat, and then we're all going to jump in the sea, and we're all going to feel amazing. There's no, like, you can't really, like, it just sort of made me, that definitely for me is an experience, and that was pre-body positivity, like, social media stuff. This was probably, like, 2008.
Yeah.
But it just changed my logic on, like, the way nobody cared. Nobody cared. No one stopped talking to me. No one said no one was mean to me afterwards. When like, nothing bad happened from being naked.
Yeah.
So it definitely changed the way I feel about myself. And so, yeah.
Oh, I love that.
That was a good, fun experience.
Yeah.
Go to Finland, get naked. It will change your life.
I love that. This is an official endorsement for Visit Finland.
Yeah. Visit Finland, get naked. It will change your life.
Exactly.
Jump in the
You'll
sea.
feel better for it.
Life.
Exactly. Just be naked.
Just be naked.
So, like, I love that. That's what we need on body positivity on social media. We need that experience. We need people to document that. That could be a thing. I love that. I feel like this could be an actual trend that could happen, like, when people start traveling again.
But yeah, no, like, we need to stop, like, yeah. And I know it's easier said than done. And I know that, like, I definitely have probably been guilty of it in the past. But just, you can't help your body. And it doesn't, like, body neutrality. When I first heard about that, and I can't remember where I read it, but I was like, oh my God, that makes so much sense.
Yeah. It
just makes so much sense. Like, just the body you have is the body you have. So,
yeah.
Let's stop attaching value to appreciate, and, like, don't attach value to it.
Yeah. And I think so, and I get, it's a really good point about don't attach value to it, because even though I'm like, oh yeah, I feel really body positive and fairly neutral, I do absolutely attach value to some of my body. I absolutely do. And I don't, and I suppose you don't even really realize it. And I get that I also have, like, slim privilege and things like that. I completely understand it. And I'm like, yeah, I actually do. I don't even realise it. It's only we're having this conversation. I'm like, absolutely, of course I do. At one point, I used to, like, literally model, obviously not my face in it, but model underwear. That's literally attaching value to my entire body. So yeah.
I mean, we've touched on this before in the past and stuff, where I'm like, I think you have quite a healthy outlook on your body, though. Like, you're aware of the privilege that you have. Being, you can walk into any shop and get
clothes that fit me
and pick whatever you want to. You'll find clothes that will fit you. You don't have to think about that. But also, I think you're not obsessed. Like, in all the years that we've been friends, I've never seen you obsessing about. You're obsessed about fitness.
Oh yeah. Oh, I love being strong. I just want to pick shit up and break it.
You just want to pick, but and I know that this is true because I've been to your house and you're just like, look what I can pick up, and you just pick things up, you weirdo.
Like Asterix and Obelix, they just want to pick stuff up.
Yeah, you just want to pick stuff up, and then and like, look, what I said at the beginning about, like, losing weight to conform to a societal standard. Like, we've both spoken about this. Like, sometimes you're like, actually, I'm going to work out a lot right now because I want to see my abs and like I want to look. And you know, I don't think that's necessarily a terrible thing because of the way. It's an interesting one though. I was like, maybe I don't know enough about it, but I don't think it's wrong to be like, actually, you know what? I want to do this to see this.
Yeah.
But when you're having to do it because you're doing that for yourself.
Yes. Yeah.
It's never about, you're always, you know, we talk about like vanity and stuff. It's never like you're literally doing it for you because you want to look in the mirror and be like, yeah,
because I'm really,
I like what
definitely, I'm definitely, there's a level of vanity.
yeah. But I've never heard you do it for outside,
like kind of
what's the word? Praise.
Yeah, no, it's
validation and praise.
Yeah. So I don't need it. So I don't need it from anyone else.
No.
Yeah. Ah, interesting.
So yeah, look, we live in an imperfect world, so these conversations are all great in theory, but even the theory is, even the theory is theory. Well done, Pam.
Yeah.
But the theory is so like high concept because we don't live in that world yet. Yes. That I don't know what a world with body neutrality looks like. All I can do is like just try not to perpetuate harmful stereotypes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And cause harm with what I say about other people about their bodies. You know, so that whole thing of perfect example in recent years is that I said it to you after Chadwick Boseman passed away.
Yeah.
Because the company I work for, we did a film with him, 21 Bridges. And I went to a junket and I saw him, and I remember saying to you afterwards, after he passed away, that, oh, that's so interesting because I had a conversation with our PR lady, and literally the conversation went, he was much skinnier in real life than I thought he was. And she was telling me about this gorgeous jacket that he was wearing that came from Yves Saint Laurent. And she was like, yeah, we've got to send it back because it's like worth 50 grand. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then I was like, oh, maybe that's why he's so skinny. Maybe he likes high-end clothing.
Yeah.
And so he stays skinny to fit in that model size.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that this was just a conversation that the two of us had privately. At no point were we going to say it out loud or say it in front of someone, but this is why you shouldn't comment on someone's size.
Yeah.
Because we now know that he was dying of cancer.
Yeah.
So, you know, like, that was a private conversation. Nothing was written down. And so I don't feel bad about having that conversation.
Yeah. Because it was making an observation as opposed to saying, oh my God, or anything wild. Yeah.
Exactly. But, you know, that just goes to show that, like, it was the last thing that entered our mind that he was sick.
Yeah.
That you shouldn't comment on people and on things like that when it comes to people, and certainly not to their face, because it's none of your business.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you don't know what people are dealing with.
I think, we've all learnt a massive lesson about minding our fucking business, haven't we? And there's just no need to say anything about anyone else to anyone else. Or like, I mean, you know, obviously, like you say, behind closed doors, if that's what you feel it needs to, you don't need to write it down. You don't need to say it to them. It's just shh.
Yeah, we ended up having it as a passing comment, and I think when I look back on that conversation, I'm like, I'm really glad that I didn't say anything negative because I would feel terrible now. It was exactly like you said; it was an observation, and like the best, like our brains don't naturally go to the worst case. So I was like, oh, he must just have to work really hard to put on the weight for Black Panther because he's a naturally skinny man. Yeah. Because our brains don't go to that.
No, exactly. Yeah, because I think I know that when actually around that people were saying, oh, like people says so much stuff online. I didn't notice it because I don't spend huge amounts of time.
I didn't see any of that at the time.
I didn't see it. It's not. I wouldn't have necessarily like searched for his name and then searched for the comments or anything else. I didn't have any. Yeah. So I wasn't aware. And actually, I know that there's some. I don't know how true this is because online. But people were saying he posted pictures and then had taken them off or something like that because people commented on
people commented on it.
Yeah, and I was like, that's so sad, but I suppose it shows that we still have a long way to go. And I think that kind of natural transition is from body positivity to body neutrality, and that neutrality really encompassing just shut the hell up because it's got nothing to do with you. Yeah, just shut up. Shut up about it. Yeah, just mind your business. Just focus on yourself.
Everything about making the world better just comes down to mind your business.
Literally. So I was thinking this the other day. So much of it is like calling like the police on people, everything else. Just so much could be resolved if you just minded your business. Just drink your water daily and mind your business. These are the fundamental things in life.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Absolutely. So, wow, I think let's take it back round to dating to wrap up. So now we literally, our conversation went all over the place there because there's so many different parts to when we're talking about our bodies and what we think about them and where these messages come from and the whole internalized messages thing could have been a whole bloody that's a
whole other thing, literally
its own fucking like episode. But going back to dating, where do you think, I don't know, is there something we could do online in terms of body positivity and body neutrality and dating and starting to kind of make that a more positive type thing? Is there messaging we can do around that? And what do you want guys to do when it comes to dating you? They're my two questions.
Okay, so the first question was, I think definitely you see all these things. I've seen so many memes and things of like a larger woman with a skinny guy like sitting on his lap and all of these things, and they're like, oh, you know, all the comments that come along with that. And so if a man, and we know men are attracted to larger women, we know this, we see like the amount of DMs that people get, there's a whole feeder thing, which is a whole thing in itself. I know that if I made an OnlyFans, I could make so much money, especially if I just smashed my boobs into food.
I keep telling you to do this.
I have thought this through a lot, and I was like, if I did not have a family, I could make thousands, because there are people that would love to see a fat girl smashing her boobs into food. And
we could go on so many holidays.
So we know that people find fat women attractive, but society tells them not to.
Yeah.
So I think it's like, how do you empower men who are not always who are definitely not the stronger sex, to not care what anyone says?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
That's
just
a really
not
good
care.
point. Yeah. How do they do that?
How many people cheat on their how many people who just can't embrace it cheat on their wives? It's a whole trope in of itself. He cheated on me with a fat girl.
Yeah.
So there's definitely education and stuff to be done around that.
That's a really good point. I mean, I've been cheated on before, but I was upset because she was ugly. I'm joking. She was actually really good looking. I'm just being a dick. But it's like, I've never thought about that. But yeah, that is something that so many people have said. And I was like, but as oh my God, there was a guy I used to hang out with when I was younger, Gus. I haven't seen him for a million years. And he actually made a really good point. I used to hang around with lots of guys when I was younger who were my friends, and it was really actually a good thing because it made me really understand made me a bit more savvy about guys when I was younger. And he actually said, you know, none of these things so many women internalize, if this guy's doing that with someone else, what's it saying about me, and blah, blah, blah. And he was like, honestly, for some men, he goes, not all of them, but for some men, Yolanda, a hole in the wall is a hole in the wall. And I was like, Jesus Christ, whether it's Eva Longoria or someone down the road. And I was like, that is the wildest statement. But also it really does, if you just... Sorry, the wildest statement. But I was like, actually, it stopped me attaching any self-worth to anything like that happening.
As I've gotten older, I think dating is a little bit easier because the men I date have also gotten older. Yeah. And as men get older and get more confident and they care less about what other people think, it's less of a big deal than it was when I was younger. 100%. Like, I go on more dates now, like, than I did when I was younger. I don't know if that's partly because of dating apps, and so it's easier to meet people because there's only so many people you're going to meet at work and going out with your friends. Yeah. I don't know if that's helped, because I never did like Match.com when it was all online. I never did that online dating. I've only done apps. Yeah. But yeah, definitely I noticed that it's less of a big deal for guys once they're hitting like 40. Yeah. Late 30s, early 40s, they kind of don't care anymore. Yeah. They're just kind of just like, I get being a bit more kind of just accepting of what they like and just getting on with it and not caring what people think, do you think? Exactly. Yeah. So I definitely don't. So, and then as we were talking about Gen Z, I'm hoping that for them it's a much better. Oh man, they're gonna have a great time. They're so fucking lucky. I'm saying this because my producer Abby, she is Gen Z, and I'm just always like, oh, you're so lucky. You're just such a cool generation. She's so cool. I can't even cope with it. I know, because what Abby doesn't know is how much you tell me how great Abby is. I'm like to the point slightly obsessed with Abby. I'm sorry, Abby. I hope you don't have Abby's home address because it might not be safe. He's like, I just want to be Abby. Poor Abby's listening to this now. But anyway, but yeah, so
Now, what would you say? Now we've had all this conversation, we've gone through all this, we know what guys have said that are just wild and crazy to you. How would you like to be approached on dating apps, and what message do you want to leave guys with when it comes to dating women, when it comes to dating plus size women, when it comes to dating black women? Like, advice time.
Be respectful.
Yeah.
Respect. Like, be respectful in when you're letting someone down. Be respectful in when you're saying no and when you're saying yes. Yeah. Like, I think we're all adults. Like, not everyone is going to be your cup of tea. That's okay. And be respectful in your approach. You wouldn't want someone to be like, hey, yo, you look like you got a big dick. So why do you think it's okay to go, hey, yo, do you have big titties?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Oh, I hate that. And the guys genuinely say that in messages, and I'm just like, okay, and delete.
Yeah, and my favourite is when they ask your bra size, and I know full well they have no idea what correlation that is to anything.
Yeah. No one has ever asked me that ever on dating.
Oh,
no one has ever asked
lucky.
me. But they've said, there's been a few guys that have commented and just been like, said about my boobs, but then as soon as anyone says anything about my body, I'm just a match. If it's like anything else, I don't care. No, fuck off. You can think it in your head. You can like the way I look, but just shut the fuck up about it, man.
Don't say anything, because it's weird and creepy.
It's so fucking weird. It's so weird. Just stop saying stuff. Just like, what kind of conversation do you think you should have? What conversation do you think will give you the best chance of success? And whatever you're thinking, do the opposite, man. Just...
But if they were being respectful, then they would have known not to say any of that.
Yeah.
And we come round to the main thing. Yeah. How do you want people to approach you? With respect.
Absolutely.
With respect. We're all human beings on this world, and no one's value is more or less based on how they look, how much money they have, or anything like that. We are all humans, and we were all born equal.
Yeah.
So
absolutely,
come correct.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. And there we go. And that was Pam. That was brilliant. Just come correct. Oh, the gospel according to Pam. So Pam, thank you so much for joining me today. Would you like to be found on social media? You can say no.
No, I was like, absolutely bloody not.
Yeah. I knew you were going to say that. Amazing. Anyway, thank you so much, hon.
All right, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Bye. Thank you for listening to Speak On. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share with your friends, family, co-workers, strangers in the street. To find out more about us, including our upcoming events, head over to Instagram, instagram.com/speakon_. Bye!